Listen, I'm gonna be honest with y'all right now. Some of y'all are really gonna get it today. Translion Dad's gonna call your bullshit out. Let's get started. Hi folks, it's Translion Dad and welcome back to the channel. Listen, I have a lot of feelings. I wasn't even planning on filming today. Today was just supposed to be an upload, a little bit of editing, and then just relaxing, getting my haircut and just relaxing. But because of all of y'all, I'm uploading a video because we've been over this. The trans community has been over this. I don't know what it's going to take for everyone to just listen to a little bit of backstory to why I'm filming this video. So I was at work today, as I usually am. I was planning out my syllabus, I was planning out my day, scheduling out, and I thought, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pop onto Twitter, and I'm gonna go see how everyone's doing. And I kid you not, I had 5 tweets on my newsfeed in succession, in which everyone was talking about their irresponsible binding practices. Holy fuck, guys. Listen, I'm Translion Dad, and I completely understand. I am relatable. I completely understand where everyone is coming from when it comes to binding and safe binding practices. You know, each and every one of us, when it comes to safe binding, especially within the trans mass community, you know, we first get our binder and we'll have our friends or we'll have our role models or resources or YouTubers telling us, listen folks, don't do X amount of things. And we just think, you know, we're hot shit. We also think that, you know what, I have faith in myself that I'm not going to be irresponsible. And what do our dumbasses do? We do all the irresponsible things when it comes to binding. It doesn't matter how many times people tell us, we're still gonna do it anyways. That's what I'm trying to stop, alright? Like, legitimately, I am making a mega parenting video right now. This is Translion Dad going full dad mode on to you right now because we really need to talk about this, especially because I have now reached the realm of binding responsibly, and I feel so much better now that I'm binding responsibly that I kind of want all of you to join in on that and actually bind safely, because it not only affects your health currently, it will affect your health in the future, and if you're planning on getting top surgery, it will affect that too. So I know that I'm probably going to be making more videos like this, more binding tips and videos about, say, binding, or like tips for those with certain binding patterns or certain clothing patterns. I'm probably going to do more videos like this. So this is just your basics. Today we're going to cover the basic rules of binding, and let's get into it. So the first thing I want to cover today is what are good ways of binding and bad ways of binding. Now what I mean by this is the actual concrete method in which you're binding. I would say get an actual binder. And what I mean by an actual binder is go to a store like GC2B or Spectrum Outfitters and get a binder from there, because their binders are specifically made for a person to wear and to bind their chests. They are measured and they are built for that purpose. Do not, and I repeat, do not bind with ace bandages or duct tape. Have you ever duct taped your skin before? I have, and not because I was trying to bind, because I was a dumbass when I was a kid. I duct taped my skin. Do you know what happened? I peeled it out and it hurt like a motherfucker, and that was like my arm. Think about your chest. Think about, you know, sensitive skin right around this area, this region. It is so important that you do not bind with duct tape. It is so dangerous for you. First of all, it is dangerous because it damages your skin, as I've said before, and it's also dangerous in the fact that it is a really strong binding force, in the sense that you bind it too tight to your body, you could damage your ribs, your chest muscles, and etc. It can lead to long-term damage. So please do not bind with duct tape. Absolutely not. And the same thing goes with ace bandages. Ace bandages are not suitable for binding, especially if you're going to bind for long periods of time. To be quite honest with you, if you are going to bind, you're most likely not going to be doing it for just 15 minutes at a time. You're probably going to be binding for a few hours at least. So please, for the love of God, do not bind with ace bandages. Try to get appropriate binders. And I will probably talk more about getting binders at a affordable price. I do understand binders are not cheap. Sometimes even if you do have the money, it is difficult to get access if you're closeted with your parents, etc. I'm probably going to cover that in another video because that's too much to get into right now. I'm just saying, as a preliminary basis, do not bind with unsafe materials. Get a proper binder, secondhand, whatever. Do not bind unsafely in that manner. So the next thing I want to talk about comes with when you actually get a binder, and I mean a proper binder, okay? Right, listen up. When you get a binder, and let's say it's not a secondhand binder, because if you do get a secondhand binder, most likely it's been worn in before, it's got a little bit more room for you to breathe because it's been worn, it's been stretched out a little bit. I'm talking about if you get a brand new binder, please ensure that it fits you. Measure it, measure yourself. If you're going to buy yourself a binder, measure yourself initially. A lot of the websites that source binders, especially Spectrum Outfitters, put out a chart where they tell you exactly what their sizing is. So, measure yourself. And if we're talking about Spectrum Outfitters, they often do free exchanges. So you can always try out a size, realize whether or not it fits you, and then exchange the size. But it is really important that you measure yourself out properly because you do not want to damage your ribs or your chest. I can tell you this, especially if folks are thinking about starting testosterone, your muscle definition changes, your muscle volume changes, and it is something you really need to take into account because if you're going to be wearing it for long periods of time, you need to be able to be comfortable and you need to be able to breathe. And that's the second prong of this point, is that when you measure this binder, please make sure you know you can breathe in it. If you've never binded before, the first initial feeling of binding is a little bit jarring, especially if you're used to wearing sports bras or any other bra. It is initially jarring. That's not what I'm talking about. Like, initial weirdness and discomfort is completely normal. I'm talking about not being able to breathe in general. I mean, like, if you're struggling to walk at a leisurely pace and you still find yourself panting and struggling, then please reconsider getting a different binder size. If you want to be able to carry out daily activities and duties while you are binding, it is hazardous to yourself to allow yourself to wear a binder in which you're unable to breathe in. I have friends who have worn way too tight binders, or worn binders on top of each other, and right now they struggle. They have consistent rib and chest issues, and I do not want that for any of you, and I want you all to bind safely. So please heed my words when it comes to this. Measure yourself properly and get yourselves a well-sized binder that allows you to breathe. Now we're getting to a part where I semi-call myself out as well, because a lot of people who have gone through binding have tried to be rebels. I've tried it. I've had my really good friend Harry come up to me when I first got my binder, and he was like, "Listen, bro, don't work out while you're binding." Now, what did my dumb ass do? I wore my binder to work out one day because I was feeling myself like that. I completely understand anyone else who feels this way, because when I started wearing my binder, it was so euphoric. I felt so comfortable. I looked good in tank tops, and I wanted to pass in the gym. It's the one place at that point in time in my life that I struggled to pass in. So being able to bind and work out there was so important. So I bound, and I went and I worked out. I was also a dumbass in this part. I did chest and cardio and abs. And I think not even halfway through my workout, I was struggling, especially while running. I was struggling, and I remember that evening going to a trans group meeting with a few of my friends, and I was panting out of my mind. I was consistently like stretching and like trying to find comfort within my binder. And my friend Harry just looked at me and he was just like, "You worked out while binding, didn't you?" And I was just like, "Oh no, he got me out. He saw. And I had to tell him, I was like, "Yeah, I bound while working out." He was like, "You're being a dumbass. Do not do that. It is so unhealthy for you." And then he told me several stories about people with issues with their rib cages. And he told me about, you know, struggling to breathe. And he showed me like helpful articles that showed exactly what happens with your breathing when you're exercising while binding. And that just put me off it. And I've never bound while working out ever again. And I still feel dysphoric. I still struggle about passing in the gym. I always try to remind myself that this is just for now. I will one day get top surgery and everything will be okay. The next prong about wearing your binder safely is, you know, when people tell you you need to wear your binder for a recommended 6 to 8 hours a day. And that's how it's usually phrased. And you're like, "Oh, that's the recommended amount. I can tweak that a little bit." I mean, all of us like to think that we're pretty responsible, that we will know when it gets too far. We will know when it gets too far and we're going to stop it before it gets too far. Here's the thing, folks. A lot of times we don't. Because I have worn my binder for about 14 hours once. You know, it could be for a variety of reasons. It could be because you actually have not had the chance to get out of your binder, or you just didn't really think about it. Look, I need to bind for this amount of hours because I'm at work, I'm at school, I need to do this. Otherwise, I will struggle. And that is completely understandable. I completely get where everyone is coming from with that regard. It is difficult. Here's the thing, folks. It is very, very unhealthy. Remember that breathing thing I told you about? Yeah, you kind of need to do that. You kind of need to breathe, and you kind of need to stay within the recommended amount of hours. And I'm going to put a little bit of leeway here. Because this is another tip that can go along with it. If you have to wear it for long hours of time, please take frequent breaks. Please take frequent breaks. It is so important that you take frequent breaks. If you know, let's say you're working a 10-hour shift, or you've got school and then you've got extracurricular activities, and you know you're going to be around for about 10 to 12 hours, like, you know you're going to be busy, you know you're going to have that on you. Take frequent breaks. Every time you go to the bathroom, every time you take a bathroom break, go, take it off, breathe. You need to be able to breathe. You need to be able to allow you. It's not just about breathing, folks. It's also about your muscles. Your muscles tense up. And I know this for a fact because when I wear a binder for too long, I feel my shoulders, my traps, my back just tighten up. And it is so bad. I remember going to a Thai massage after binding for too long while I was on a flight because I thought I was hot shit and that I could do it, and dysphoria is worth me struggling for 13 hours. I went and I took off my binder and this woman just massaged all the knots out of me and I felt a lot better. I honestly felt so good, and it just goes to show about how much damage it can do. And you gotta know your limits, folks. You really need to know. It is something that you learn. I'm not expecting everyone to know it from now, but it is something that you learn. You learn your limits. You learn where you struggle with. And the basic reminder is, please take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. Because there's no point easing your dysphoria if you're going to have struggles down the road health-wise. It is not worth it. The next thing I'm going to talk about, when it kind of links into the amount of hours you are in your binder, do not sleep with your binder. I swear to God, do not sleep in your binder. You know that breathing thing we talk about? You do that while you sleep as well. So when you sleep, you will struggle to breathe. And that is very bad. I have friends who go to bed with their binder and they struggle. I've stayed over with a friend who... And I should have intervened more strongly with my friend when he told me that he was binding while he slept. I should have told him strongly, look, mate, you need to take care of yourself. You need to be able to breathe. You need to take off your binder. You need to. It's just basic health and safety. You need to do this. And I know I completely get dysphoria. Folks, I suffer from dysphoria. I totally get it, and I totally understand. Even if you're not dysphoria, if you don't experience dysphoria, I do understand that disconnect. I do understand that you feel so good seeing that your chest is flat. But you need to also be able to breathe. You need to be able to sleep comfortably. And if you bind, not only will you damage your breathing patterns, you will also damage your chest and your ribs, as I've said before. My friend that falls asleep with his binder and has done so consistently ever since he got a binder has such issues right now. I do not want that for everyone. We all think that we can push a little harder, push the envelope a little more. But I think it is more important that you are safe and that you are binding safely. Because we are essentially strapping a part of our body to ourselves. And that is going to restrict a lot of movement and a lot of freedom for our muscles and for our organs, especially our lungs. It's going to do a big number on that, and we need to take care of ourselves because we need those lungs to breathe. And if we're thinking about top surgery, you gotta think about how your top surgery results are gonna look like in the future as well. That might be maybe a better motivator than just taking care of your health. Think about your top surgery results at the end of the day. The last thing I want to talk about for the purposes of this video is just basic hygiene, right? Wash your binder. Your binder is just like any other piece of clothing. Please wash your binder and do it regularly. I completely understand wearing it for a couple of days, especially if you only have like 1 or maybe 2 to 3 binders. It's difficult, you know, especially if you're a college student, you're struggling, like you only have a few binders because otherwise your parents might see it or your family members might see it. I completely get it. If you are on testosterone, or if you have sensitive skin, or if you break out easily, that is a big source of you breaking out along your chest and your back and your shoulders. If you do not wash it, bacteria builds up, and if it builds up, you will break out. It is very unhygienic and very unhealthy for you, and especially if you're on testosterone, folks. If you're on testosterone and you're wondering why you're breaking out so much, think about your binder hygiene. Just have a think about that, and just try to wash it more regularly. I promise you, 100% guarantee, it will improve. And the reason why I say that is because I initially, when I first got, I only had, I think, 2 binders at one point. And I remember wearing my gray one multiple times in a week, and I was always wondering why I was breaking out my shoulders and my back, and it was getting really annoying. And then I realized, no, I need to buy myself more binders and actually wash my binders, because that's what's causing me to break out. And this is really important, guys. Wash it. It is like any other piece of clothing. It'll stink after a while. You sweat. You know, wash it, folks. Listen, folks, I know that I've been a little bit insistent in this video, but the only reason why is because I actually genuinely care about your well-being, and I've noticed that people have been binding unhealthily as it gets closer to the summer months. And the closer it comes to spring, and I really want everyone to stay safe while binding, because I have done a lot of unhealthy things, and honestly, if I've listened to these advice beforehand, I probably would have saved myself a lot of grief, and I want to save you all a lot of grief. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. And while you're here, why don't you tell me a really funny story involving binders? It could be about you or a friend that you know. I will always read the comments, and if I find something that I really like, I'll post it on my Twitter. Anyway, guys, thank you again for watching this video. And as always, please remember, Trans Lion Dad has got your back.